Ethan had always loved exploring new worlds. As a human explorer, he spent years traveling to distant planets, studying strange landscapes, and recording alien life. But nothing could prepare him for the day he found her. The planet, called Lumisara, was known for its glowing plants and crystal-clear rivers. Ethan had landed there early in the morning, the sun just rising over violet mountains. The light made the rivers shimmer like liquid glass. He walked carefully through the forest, scanning with his instruments, noting every unusual plant and animal. Lumisara was beautiful, but quiet. Too quiet, Ethan thought. Suddenly he noticed movement near a cluster of glowing bushes. At first, he thought it was one of the small animals native to the planet, but as he got closer, he realized it was something much stranger. A small creature, barely 2 feet tall, was hiding behind the plants. Its skin shimmered like a soft blue light, and its eyes were large, round, and curious. Ethan froze, unsure what to do. The little alien girl looked frightened. She had no weapon, no visible means to defend herself, only small, delicate hands clinging to a leaf for cover. Ethan slowly knelt down, keeping his voice calm and soft. "Hello?" he said gently. "I won't hurt you." The girl tilted her head, staring at him. She made a small sound, like a soft chirp. Then carefully, she stepped out from behind the bushes. Her movements were cautious, but not aggressive. Ethan noticed her eyes, bright, intelligent, and full of emotion. There was curiosity, fear, and something else. A spark of trust, maybe. Ethan knew he couldn't leave her alone. This was not a dangerous animal. It was intelligent. She needed help. Carefully, he reached out his hand. "It's okay," he said. "I can help you." For a moment she hesitated. Then she touched his hand with hers. Her skin was warm, soft, and glowing faintly under the sunlight. Ethan smiled. "I'll take care of you," he said. "Do you understand me?" She chirped again, and this time she gave a small nod. Ethan carefully lifted her up. She was light, almost like holding a small bag of feathers. She looked at him with wide eyes, as if asking questions he couldn't understand yet. He decided to carry her back to his small shelter. It was not far, and it would give him time to understand what species she belonged to. On the way, Ethan noticed how the girl reacted to the forest. She pointed to glowing plants, touched strange vines, and seemed fascinated by everything. Ethan chuckled softly. "You like it here, don't you?" he said. She chirped happily, nodding. By the time they reached his shelter, the girl seemed calmer. She looked around the human living space with curiosity. Ethan set her down gently on the soft floor. "This is your new home for now," he said. "Don't worry. You're safe here." The girl took a small step forward, examining the objects. She seemed particularly interested in a small holographic display that Ethan used for navigation. She tapped it carefully, making the lights change. Ethan was impressed. "You're smart," he said. "Very smart." For the rest of the day, Ethan tried to communicate. The girl didn't speak in any language he recognized. She made small sounds, chirps, and whistles. She also used her hands to point or gesture. Ethan realized he would have to learn her way of communication. He brought her some food, soft, nutrient-rich pellets designed for human travelers. She sniffed them, then hesitated. Finally, she tasted one and nodded, chirping softly as if saying thank you. Ethan smiled. "Good," he said. "You're safe now." Night came, and the shelter glowed with soft lights. Outside, the forest of Lumisara shimmered under a pale moon. The girl sat quietly next to Ethan, her eyes wide, taking in everything. She didn't try to run or hide. She seemed to trust him, and that trust made Ethan feel a strange warmth in his chest. As he watched her, Ethan thought about the loneliness of being an explorer. He traveled from planet to planet, always observing but rarely connecting. Now he had someone who needed him, someone who trusted him completely. It felt different. It felt good. The girl finally made a small sound, and Ethan realized it might be her way of greeting him or thanking him. He leaned closer and smiled. "I'll protect you," he said. "I promise." Sleep came slowly for both of them. Ethan stayed near her, making sure she was comfortable. The girl curled up in a small, glowing cocoon of blankets, her eyes slowly closing. Ethan's mind wandered. Who was she? Where did she come from? And why was she alone in this strange forest? For now, those questions could wait. The important thing was clear. She was safe, and he would keep it that way. Outside, the forest whispered softly in the wind. Lumisara's glowing plants flickered, casting dancing lights across the shelter walls. It was quiet again, but not empty. There was life here, life that was curious, intelligent, and trusting. And for the first time in a long time, Ethan felt a connection he had never known before. He closed his eyes, listening to the gentle breathing of the little alien girl. Tomorrow would be a new day, a day to learn more about her world, and maybe about himself. Ethan knew one thing for certain. Finding her had changed everything, and this was only the beginning of a journey that would test human courage, patience, and compassion in ways he had never imagined. And somewhere in the forest outside, unseen eyes watched. But for now, the little alien girl and the human explorer rested peacefully, unaware that their lives were about to intertwine with adventures far beyond the glowing trees of Lumisara. The morning light spilled through the transparent walls of Ethan's shelter, bathing the small space in soft gold. The little alien girl, whom he had begun to call Luma for the faint glow of her skin, was already awake. She sat cross-legged on the floor, staring at the plants outside, her large eyes reflecting wonder and curiosity. Ethan smiled as he entered the room with a tray of fresh nutrient pellets. "Good morning, Luma," he said. She chirped happily in response and reached for the tray. As she ate, Ethan observed her carefully. She was small, delicate, and incredibly intelligent. The way she explored her surroundings, touched objects, and studied the tools he used suggested she was more than just a child. She was curious, observant, and fast learning. Ethan felt a mix of pride and amazement. Humans were known for intelligence, yes, but here was an alien being who seemed equally remarkable. And yet her small size and vulnerability reminded him how much care she needed. After breakfast, Ethan decided to take a walk outside with her. The forest of Lumisara stretched endlessly in every direction. Bioluminescent plants glimmered softly in the sunlight, casting dancing reflections on the crystal-clear streams. Ethan carried a small scanner to record data, but Luma had other ideas. She darted ahead, laughing in soft chirps, and Ethan found himself following, careful not to frighten her. "Slow down, Luma," he called, jogging after her. She turned, giggling, and ran a little faster, zigzagging through the glowing foliage. Ethan laughed. Despite the alienness of the world, the joy of seeing life, any life, so full of curiosity reminded him of why he had become an explorer in the first place. As they walked deeper into the forest, Ethan noticed something unusual. Small, faint lights flickered between the trees, moving in patterns that didn't match the natural glow of the plants. At first, he thought it might be fireflies, or the natural luminescence of Lumisara's forest insects, but the lights moved, in a deliberate way, as if they were searching for something. Ethan stopped and watched closely. Luma approached, chirping softly and pointing at the lights. It seemed she recognized them. Her small body tensed and she glanced at Ethan, her eyes wide with concern. "What is it, Luma?" he asked gently. She chirped again and made a gesture toward the lights, a motion that clearly meant, "They are looking for me." Ethan's heart raced. These were not ordinary forest creatures. Someone, or something, was searching for Luma. His mind raced with questions. Who were they? Were they dangerous? Or were they her family trying to find her after she had wandered off? Deciding to be cautious, Ethan picked up Luma and walked back toward the shelter, keeping a close eye on the flickering lights in the distance. He made a mental note to stay alert. Whatever, or whoever it was, he would protect her. Humans were known for courage, resourcefulness, and compassion, and Ethan planned to show all three if needed. Back in the safety of the shelter, Ethan set Luma down and examined her belongings. Among her small satchel, he found tiny tools, pieces of colored crystals, and what looked like fragments of writing etched into soft, flexible material. The writing was unlike anything he had seen before, curved, flowing, with shapes that seemed almost alive. "This is from your world, isn't it?" Ethan said softly. Luma chirped, pointing at the symbols with a tiny finger. She seemed eager for him to understand. Ethan took careful notes and sketched the symbols, hoping to decipher at least a small part of them. As the day progressed, Ethan realized that Luma's species was not only intelligent, but also highly resourceful. She mimicked simple tools he used, carefully manipulating objects, even stacking small blocks with perfect balance. She experimented, observed, and learned quickly. Her trust in him allowed her to explore freely, but she also seemed cautious, as though she remembered something important. Late in the afternoon, Ethan went outside to gather water from a nearby stream. He left Luma in the shelter, thinking she would stay safe inside. But when he returned, he found her looking toward the horizon, her small hands pressed against the window. Her body was tense, and she made a sough. The next morning, Lumisara's forest glowed softly as sunlight filtered through the violet leaves. Ethan was already awake, preparing his scanner and data sheets, while outside, tiny streams reflected the colors of the sky. But he couldn't stop thinking about the events of the previous day, the reunion between Luma and the two adult aliens. Luma was back in the shelter, curled up quietly on a soft mat. She seemed calmer now, but her eyes held curiosity and a hint of worry. She chirped softly as Ethan entered, pointing to her satchel which he had been examining the night before. "Ready to show me more?" he asked gently. Luma chirped again and carefully opened the satchel. Among the crystals, small tools, and odd fragments of flexible material, she pulled out a tiny, flat panel covered in the same flowing symbols Ethan had seen before. "This must be important," he said, crouching beside her. He studied the panel carefully. The writing was unlike any human language he had encountered. The symbols curved and flowed as if they were alive, and some seemed to shimmer faintly, reacting to the light. Ethan realized that it might contain information about Luma's species or even about her family's history. Over the next several hours, Ethan worked to decipher the symbols. He used his human ingenuity, looking for patterns, repetitions, and shapes that might correspond to sounds or meanings. Luma watched closely, chirping occasionally and pointing to certain symbols, as if to guide him. Slowly, he began to make sense of small fragments. The panel contained a simple story, a story of a peaceful civilization living on a planet far from Lumisara. They were explorers, scientists, and caretakers of their environment. Their technology was advanced, but they valued knowledge and understanding over conquest. Ethan's heart swelled with admiration. Even across galaxies, their values resonated with humanity's best qualities: curiosity, cooperation, and care for life. As he studied, Ethan noticed another pattern. The symbols suggested that Luma's people sometimes traveled between planets to learn from other worlds. Perhaps that explained how Luma had ended up alone on Lumisara. But why had she wandered so far from her home? And why had the adult aliens been searching so urgently? Luma chirped, pointing to a symbol that seemed to represent her home or family. Ethan realized that she wanted him to understand that her journey was not just about being lost. It was about exploration, curiosity, and the desire to learn. Her species, he thought, must value knowledge as much as humans did. As Ethan pieced together the story, he heard a faint noise outside. He looked up and saw movement among the glowing plants. Small, soft lights flickered in the distance, the same flickering signals he had seen before the adult aliens arrived. His heart beat faster. Luma's small body stiffened and she chirped urgently. Ethan understood immediately. Someone, or something, was still searching for her. But these lights were different. They moved in patterns that suggested intelligence and purpose. Perhaps they were scouts or perhaps other members of her species exploring the area. Deciding to be cautious, Ethan moved to the shelter's entrance, keeping Luma close. The lights approached slowly, revealing their form. This time, he could see that they were small, spherical drones hovering just above the ground. They emitted soft hums and flickered in colors similar to Luma's skin. Clearly, they were connected to her, but their intent was unknown. Ethan raised his hands in a gesture of peace as he had done before. The drones paused, their lights pulsing in response. Luma chirped excitedly and stepped forward, reaching out toward them. Ethan realized that she recognized them as friendly. Perhaps these drones were messengers from her home, sent to ensure her safety. Curiosity won over caution. Ethan gently took out a small tool from his bag, a scanner, and began to analyze the drones. Their design was elegant and efficient. Lightweight, durable, and clearly built for communication and observation, they reflected a level of technological skill that matched the story on Luma's panel. The drones hovered closer, and one projected a soft, holographic image. Ethan watched in awe as a map appeared, showing planets, star systems, and a path that seemed to lead to Luma's homeworld. The map pulsed gently, as if alive, and Ethan realized that her people had not only advanced technology, but also a sophisticated method of guiding and protecting their young. Luma chirped happily, pointing to the glowing path on the map. Ethan smiled. She was excited to see the way home, but also eager to learn. Her curiosity matched his own. Humans had always explored the unknown, and here was a tiny alien being doing the same. Her determination and intelligence reminded him of why humans were capable of remarkable things: curiosity, adaptability, and courage. For the rest of the day, Ethan worked alongside Luma, interpreting the symbols and interacting with the drones. They learned from each other. The drones responded to Ethan's gestures, slowly understanding that he was a friend. Luma, ever observant, guided both human and machine in their communication. As evening approached, Ethan reflected on what he had learned. Luma's species valued knowledge, exploration, and trust. They built technology that was beautiful, efficient, and intelligent, but they also valued life and relationships. Humans and Luma's people shared many qualities: curiosity, empathy, and a desire to understand the world. Ethan felt proud. Humanity's ability to learn, adapt, and connect could truly shine across galaxies. Night fell, and Lumasara's glowing plants lit the forest with soft, dancing lights. Luma settled on her mat, her small body glowing faintly in the dark. Ethan sat nearby, reviewing his notes and sketches from the day. He realized that he was witnessing something extraordinary, a chance to bridge worlds through understanding, friendship, and shared knowledge. Suddenly, a soft hum filled the shelter. Ethan looked up and saw the drones hovering just outside, their lights pulsing in a gentle rhythm. They projected another image, this time, symbols he had not yet deciphered. Luma chirped, pointing at the new symbols and then at Ethan as if saying, "Learn this too." Ethan's mind raced. He understood that Luma's journey was far from over. Her people were reaching out, not just to guide her home, but to share knowledge, trust, and friendship. And he as a human was part of that journey. His empathy, intelligence, and courage had earned their trust, and now he had a role to play in something larger than himself. For the first time, Ethan felt the true meaning of exploration. It was not just about traveling to new worlds or cataloging strange creatures. It was about connecting, learning, and sharing. It was about showing what humans could achieve when they combined heart, mind, and courage. Luma chirped softly and curled up beside him. Ethan reached out and placed a hand on her glowing shoulder. "We're learning together," he whispered. "You, me, and your people. And together, we'll discover amazing things." Outside, the forest whispered with the gentle hum of life. The glowing plants, the soft streams, and the quiet movement of the drones painted a scene of harmony. Humans, aliens, and machines, all learning, all connected, all part of a larger story that stretched across stars and planets. Ethan realized that this was only the beginning. Tomorrow would bring more lessons, more mysteries, and perhaps new challenges. But for now he felt hope, pride, and excitement. Humanity had the ability to shine, not through force but through intelligence, courage, and compassion. And as he looked at Luma, asleep and peaceful, he knew one thing for certain. Some connections were stronger than distance, time, or language. Trust, kindness, and understanding could build bridges across galaxies. Tonight, under Lumisara's glowing sky, Ethan closed his eyes, ready for the adventures that lay ahead. He was not alone. He had Luma. He had knowledge. And he had the qualities that made humans remarkable. And somewhere, beyond the stars, the story of a tiny alien girl, her people, and a human explorer was only beginning to unfold. The next morning on Lumisara, the forest was alive with soft light. The glow of the plants reflected off the crystal-clear streams, casting sparkling patterns on the ground. Ethan woke early, his mind already buzzing with plans. Luma had slept peacefully beside him, her small, glowing form curled up like a living lantern. Today, Ethan felt a mix of anticipation and caution. Ever since the drones and the map had appeared, he knew that Luma's people were paying close attention to her journey. He also sensed that new visitors might arrive soon. Humans had a natural ability to sense patterns, and his intuition told him something important was about to happen. After a light breakfast, Ethan and Luma went outside. The forest seemed calm, but subtle changes caught his eye. Soft footprints, too small for him, too precise for any animal, led toward the shelter. Luma's body stiffened and she chirped urgently. Ethan understood immediately. They were coming. Short while later, shapes appeared at the edge of the glowing forest. Two tall, graceful alien women stepped into the soft light. Their skin shimmered in shades of blue and violet, like Luma's, but deeper and richer. Their eyes were large and intelligent, reflecting both concern and authority. One held a staff that glowed faintly, and the other carried small devices that pulsed with light. Ethan instinctively raised his hands in a gesture of peace, a human way to show he meant no harm. The aliens paused, studying him carefully. They did not move aggressively, they only tilted their heads and observed. Luma chirped happily and ran toward them, her small arms outstretched. The taller alien women smiled softly at. The morning sun bathed Lumisara in soft gold and violet hues, the glowing forest alive with gentle movement. Ethan had been awake for hours, reviewing his notes and preparing for what he suspected would be an important day. The arrival of Luma's guardians had opened a door to understanding, but he knew their journey was far from over. Humans had a way of sensing patterns and potential challenges, and his instincts told him that more surprises awaited. Luma sat quietly beside him, her glowing skin reflecting the soft light. She had been unusually silent this morning, chirping only softly, her eyes fixed on the distant horizon. Ethan noticed the tension in her small body. Something was coming. He could feel it. As they walked outside, Ethan saw subtle changes in the forest. Some of the glowing plants flickered differently, their light almost like signals. Tiny creatures moved cautiously among the foliage, and the air felt charged with energy. Luma's eyes widened as she chirped urgently and pointed toward the trees. Ethan followed her gaze. In the distance, two tall figures appeared, moving with purpose through the glowing forest. Their skin shimmered in blue and violet hues, and their eyes were sharp, intelligent, and focused. Ethan realized immediately who they were. Other members of Luma's species, perhaps higher-ranking figures or explorers sent to assess the situation. Luma clung to Ethan's arm, her small body glowing brighter as she chirped nervously. Ethan knelt down to her level. "It's okay, Luma. We can handle this," he said softly. Her eyes flicked to his face, and for a brief moment she seemed reassured. Humans had a unique way of showing courage and calm under pressure, and Ethan relied on that strength now. The two alien figures approached cautiously, their posture alert but not aggressive. One of them raised a hand, and a soft light pulsed from her fingertips, a signal of peace, perhaps, or a form of communication. Ethan mirrored the gesture, showing he meant no harm. Humans had an instinct for empathy and careful diplomacy, and his actions reflected that. The aliens stopped a few meters away, scanning the area carefully. They were assessing, analyzing, and judging, but their tone was not hostile. Luma chirped, repeatedly, pointing at Ethan and then at the newcomers, clearly trying to explain that he was a friend. Her small gestures bridged the gap between species, showing trust that humans were capable of nurturing and protection. Ethan realized that this moment required careful thinking. He had to act with intelligence, patience, and courage, the very qualities that made humans stand out in the galaxy. If he could show understanding and cooperation, he could turn this encounter into a positive experience for all. Slowly, he extended his hand toward the aliens, keeping his movements deliberate and calm. One of them, a taller figure with a glowing staff, paused, then reached out to touch his hand lightly. A soft glow spread from their contact, a clear sign of recognition and acceptance. Ethan smiled, feeling a surge of pride. Humanity had a way of building trust, even across worlds and species. The aliens then projected a holographic image in the air between them. It showed Luma's homeworld, a beautiful planet with crystal rivers, forests that glowed faintly at night, and cities that shimmered like jewels. The image pulsed softly, showing areas of concern, regions affected by environmental changes, places where exploration had been risky. Ethan understood immediately. They were sharing knowledge and seeking help, inviting him to participate in solving challenges. He nodded slowly, communicating his willingness to cooperate. The aliens seemed pleased, their glowing eyes reflecting relief and cautious optimism. Luma chirped happily, running between Ethan and the figures, clearly proud of him. She had trusted him from the beginning, and now her guardians were beginning to trust him too. As the day progressed, Ethan worked alongside the aliens. They showed him more advanced tools, devices that could monitor the environment and methods for tracking energy patterns across the planet. Humans were naturally curious and quick learners, and Ethan's ability to adapt impressed the aliens. Luma guided him patiently, chirping and gesturing, helping him understand subtle cues in the technology and communication systems. By midday, Ethan realized they were preparing for a crucial task. A part of Luma's homeworld, as shown in the hologram, was experiencing instability. The alien visitors needed a human perspective to solve a problem, something that combined creativity, ingenuity, and empathy. Humans had always excelled at thinking in new ways, at approaching challenges from unexpected angles, and today was an opportunity to demonstrate that. The task required careful coordination. Ethan observed the energy readings on a floating display, then suggested a small adjustment to the equipment. The aliens paused, clearly considering his idea, then mirrored the adjustment. A soft hum filled the air as the system stabilized. Luma chirped joyfully, her small body glowing brightly with excitement. Ethan felt a sense of achievement. Humans could make a difference, even on a planet far from their own. But the challenge was not yet over. Suddenly, a subtle vibration ran through the ground. Ethan looked up and saw movement in the forest. Small, rapid flashes of light suggested that other beings, unknown and potentially curious, were approaching. The aliens tensed, their bodies glowing brighter, ready to respond. Luma clung to Ethan's arm, her chirps urgent and fearful. Ethan remained calm. He knew humans had a remarkable ability to act with intelligence under pressure. He studied the movement carefully, noticing patterns in the lights. These were not hostile. They were explorers, scouts, or perhaps members of Luma's extended family checking the area. Humans had a way of observing and understanding without immediate action, and he relied on that strength now. With careful gestures, Ethan signaled to the aliens that he would approach the lights slowly. They followed cautiously, and Luma chirped, guiding them. As they moved closer, the lights resolved into small, glowing drones, similar to the ones that had arrived before. They pulsed gently, hovering in patterns that suggested communication and observation. Ethan examined them closely, realizing they were scanning the environment, ensuring safety. Luma chirped happily, and the aliens relaxed slightly. The humans' and aliens' actions had diffused potential tension, showing that intelligence, patience, and empathy could prevent conflict. By late afternoon, the group had stabilized the situation. The energy readings were normal, the drones had returned to their positions, and Luma's guardians looked at Ethan with respect and gratitude. Humans had a way of combining courage, intelligence, and empathy to solve problems, and he had demonstrated that in a challenging and unfamiliar situation. As the sun set, casting golden and violet light across the forest, Ethan felt a deep sense of accomplishment. The day had tested his patience, courage, and intelligence. It had also reinforced a truth he had always believed. Humans had the ability to shine not through force or power, but through creativity, empathy, and adaptability. Luma chirped softly, glowing warmly as she curled up beside him. Ethan reached out and stroked her small, glowing shoulder. "We did well today," he whispered. "We showed them what humans can do." The alien guardians, standing nearby, projected soft, glowing symbols, thanks, approval, and recognition. And Ethan understood the meaning clearly. Trust and respect had been earned, connections had been strengthened, and the path for future cooperation had been opened. Humans, with their courage, intelligence, and compassion, had proven themselves worthy partners in exploration and understanding. Night fell over Lumasara, and the forest glowed softly under the moonlight. Streams shimmered, plants flickered, and the air was filled with gentle hums of life. Ethan sat quietly, reflecting on the day's events. Humanity's qualities, curiosity, courage, patience, and empathy, had made a tangible difference. He realized that these traits were what set humans apart in a universe full of wonders. And as he watched Luma sleep peacefully, safe and happy, he knew the final part of their adventure was approaching. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, decisions, and discoveries. But for now, Ethan felt hope, pride, and excitement. Humans had a unique ability to connect, to solve problems, and to make a positive impact, even in worlds far beyond their own. Ethan closed his eyes under Lumasara's glowing sky, ready for whatever came next. He was not alone. He had Luma, he had knowledge, and he had the very qualities that made humans remarkable. And somewhere beyond the shimmering forest, the story of a tiny alien girl and a human explorer was preparing to reach its most important moment yet. The sun rose slowly over the glowing forests of Lumasara, painting the landscape in soft gold and violet. Ethan had been awake for hours, preparing for a journey he had both anticipated and quietly feared. Today, Luma would return to her homeworld with her guardians. It was a moment of joy, but also a moment of separation. Humans had always faced challenges like this, saying goodbye to those they cared for, but they also had a remarkable ability to find strength and meaning in such moments. Luma was awake, sitting quietly on the soft mat in the shelter. Her small glowing form radiated excitement and curiosity, but her eyes held a question. Would Ethan be coming with them? Ethan knelt beside her, placing a hand on her tiny shoulder. "This is your home, Luma," he said softly. "But I'll always be your friend." "Always," she chirped softly, nudging his hand with hers. He smiled. Outside, the alien guardians stood tall and graceful, their skin shimmering eye.